The fact is that when we're seeing evolution occur in these 62 million year periods, it's a function of the actual field of consciousness itself changing. In other words, biology is affected by the field, the way we think is affected by the field, and now that we're heading towards 2012, it's not so much that time is speeding up where you're going to look at a clock and the hands are going to move faster. In a Newtonian model, you have particles that are sitting there in empty space and they shouldn't have any interaction with each other. Yet when we are in alignment, when we're aligned with the galactic center, so that if you're standing on the Earth and the Earth is rotating and your body is on the surface of the Earth, and as the Earth spins, your position of the galactic center spins, and if there's the galactic center, as I turn and face it, my psychic ability increases so much. It's like there's this river of energy coming from the center of the galaxy. So what that ultimately suggests is that our position in the galaxy does have an effect on our cognitive function, on our thinking. It also gives a strong support to this idea that evolution could be created as a result of a position in the galaxy. Why do you have these 62 million year cycle? In order to really understand how this science works, you have to think in terms of fractals. And what fractal means is that it's actually a term derived from taking an imaginary number, which is the square root of -1, and chunking it through a very simple operation, a little equation. And then you take the product of that and you run it through again, and you take the product and you run it through again. So if you've ever seen like a paisley shirt and it has these kind of flowering patterns, that's what the fractal pattern basically looks like. Now, the thing about a fractal is that you can zoom in on it, and the farther in you go, you keep seeing the same pattern appear again. Like the Mandelbrot set, exactly. Now, a lot of the crop formations have had fractal patterns. Actually, there was a very interesting case where a team of crop circle researchers was saying, wouldn't it be interesting if the Mandelbrot set showed up in the crops, and the next day it was there. So that was obviously pretty amazing. The fractal principle is important because you have an energy system within an atom, which in some degree is similar to the energy system within the solar system, which in some degree is similar to the energy system within the galaxy. And even the galaxies all have an orbit around a universal center as well. And that has been determined by research from Russia by Dr. A.M. Mishin, M-I-S-H-I-N. So, in the solar system, there is a cycle that at first was believed to only affect the Earth. It's a slow wobbling of the Earth's axis called precession. It takes 26,000 years to complete, roughly speaking. The idea being that these walls of energy expand away from the center of the galaxy like ripples on a pond, and there is a discrete boundary like oil and water that we hit in 2012. And that's the most basic level of the model. Now, when you want to go into more detail, it gets into the work of one scientist named Dr. Oliver Crane. He wrote a paper called Central Oscillator and Space-Time Quantum Mediums, which is a very scientific sounding word, but central oscillator means that you have a little pulsation, and you have these toroids. The torus shape is a sphere with a donut hole in the middle. And you have to imagine now that there's an energy flow going through that torus, and it goes through the center, and at the center there's colliding pressure which causes there to be a sphere in the center. The pressure increases on the sphere collapses down in size, but then it's like a piston. There's an explosion from the energy coming together, and the explosion blasts it back to its normal size. Then the pressure collapses it again. In the collapse, it creates a surge of energy which explodes it, and it comes back. You get the idea now how there can be like a rhythm, like a pulse, okay? Well, that's what happens. There's this pulsation at the center of every torus. And that pulsation then ripples out through the medium, because this whole torus is like a fluid, it's like a medium. So the pulses are going out from the center. They reflect off the outside edge of the sphere, okay? And then they start going back towards the center. So they're going out and coming back. So you have this area in the center which is doing this, right? Then you have waves going out, waves reflecting off the edge, waves coming back to the center. So this is what's happening. Now, the waves that go out and the waves that come back are interfering with each other. They collide with each other. When they do, they form walls, spherical walls of energy where there's a higher concentration because you got the wave that's coming, you got the wave that's going, and they collide together and they form this wall. Now, as more energy gets into the system, the central oscillator starts going a little bit faster, or maybe the rhythm doesn't change, but the power of the waves change, and so the actual size of the whole system gets larger. And this is what's actually happening. It's basically a counter-rotating energy force. The way that you have one, this actually goes back to the ancient Vedic scriptures from India. They talk about Purusha and Prakriti, the two primeval forces, which actually are geometries. Purusha is a icosahedron, Prakriti is a dodecahedron for these basic geometries, platonic solids as they're called. So one basically stays stationary and the other one moves, and they counter-rotate inside of each other. So you now have to imagine two spheres with a donut hole in the same space, and as they collide, they counter-rotate and they form, one as it rotates forms a wave that's going up like this. The other one as it rotates form a wave that goes down like this. The upgoing wave and the downgoing wave collide in the center, form the sphere. That pressure creates the pulsation. The pulsation creates ripples that go out. Ripples come back. They interfere with each other. They create these walls of energy. As the system evolves, the walls of energy push away from the center and they grow and expand in size. As those walls collide with our solar system, they charge up the sun, they charge up the planets. That's what we're seeing in my work with Hoagland. It affects the whole solar system. It changes our DNA. It expands our consciousness. And it ultimately changes the frequency of physical matter, leading to a complete transmutation effect similar to the Bermuda Triangle, except that it's now the whole planet. So you have people basically disappearing, and this ties back in with the Christian rapture idea and all the other systems of thought that have the same thing. So what you end up having, like in quantum mechanics, there are so many competing models to try to explain the basics of quantum mechanics. Superstring theory, 11 dimensions, 26 dimensions, 9 dimensions, Kaluza-Klein theory, which is a 5-dimensional universe. And the mathematics are so complex that you can't learn all of it. You can only learn one very specialized area. Well, I really am a fan of Einstein's comments about the difference between what he called a theory of wood and a theory of marble. And a theory of wood, if you can imagine somebody taking a bunch of wooden boards and nailing them together to try to make a sculpture. It's rickety and it teeter-totters a lot. Whereas a really good theory is like it's carved out of marble and it's already there and you just have to take away that which you don't need. Einstein said that a really good theory is self-evident. It's simple, it's easy, you can explain it, and it works. We're now dealing with unified science in which we see the same properties at the quantum level as we see at the galactic level, the micro and the macro, and in mainstream science, quantum physics and relativity theory, which is Einstein's physics, do not interrelate with each other. There's a very big disconnect there. Unified field theory is going to have to unify those together, and I believe that what I'm describing to you is a unified theory.